Okay, welcome to our July update. It's getting towards the end of July. But I just want to quick run through the garden and show you what we have going on. So we have our sweet potatoes here. We have the onions that are planted with it. We have a few left, some reds that need maturing yet. But pretty much all have been pulled and the potatoes are filling in nicely. We have our row of dill, so we had onions here too, and those we pulled, and now we're harvesting dill from that, which has been really nice. This is the first year we've planted a row of dill, and it's been really nice for us for pickling, bringing some to market. People have seems like people have been looking for it. Last year we didn't really have any, but they're asking, so we grew some this year, and seems like it's kind of a hit. Here we have our hoop house that we're mainly growing beets in. There's some ginger here coming up, but this is our cover crop that was buckwheat that I have cut down, and here the same thing. You see how the beets are coming up now. So after I'd cut, this isn't planted yet, but about a week after this was cut, I planted beets, and now they're filling in, and you can't quite see, you might be able to see on the video, but there's beets planted in the rest of this row. So this row here will be just planted with succession plantings. And here we'll actually be putting in celery in not too long. We got our mini sweet peppers, which we picked some ripe ones. There's a lot of green ones, but they're just not quite ripening yet. Here we have beans planted. I don't think they're peeking out yet, but I planted them last week. We have potatoes coming up and the strawberries. Seems like the potatoes, there's some strawberries here that didn't quite die off, and wherever there's competition with the potatoes, it seems like they don't come up very well. I planted partial row in the hoop house, and it's next to the peppers. And I think the peppers are kind of robbing the soil, the moisture and stuff, and I don't know if the potatoes sense that and just won't sprout when there's that competition. I'm not sure. But anyways, we have our winter squash, which I haven't uncovered yet. But in a couple weeks they'll probably start flowering, and that's when I'll uncover. We have our sweet potatoes that were planted in with the garlic, and now they're really filling in. Here we have broccoli and cabbage planted, and you can see we have had very strong pressure from flea beetles. I think they'll do all right. They're not dying. I mean, they're still, their growth is coming on slow with that stress. But I think one thing we're gonna do is this year we're gonna get some we have insect netting, but it's not fine enough to keep out flea beetles. Our insect netting is made more for like cucumber beetles, bigger insects, but the flea beetles can get through, and so we don't cover our brassicas for flea beetles because it doesn't help anyways. But we're gonna get a really fine mesh for next year, because there's always flea beetle pressure, but this year it's been really bad. I don't know if it's because it's been really dry. I know they tend to not like when it's moist, so the extra dryness, and then also the unusual warm weather in the spring, they may have had another life cycle, which can really cause their population to get out of control. So that's another thing to think about. When we have a mild spring, it might mean another generation of bugs, good and bad, but a lot of times the pests are the ones that populate the quickest, and so they'll kind of have a huge burst where they're causing issues, and you'll see that the predators come in and take care of them, but you will have a period there where they're causing stress to the plants. But that's just how things go. These are zucchinis that are left from our first planting. These are really producing still. We've had some plants die off from the wilt, but these I just planted yesterday to carrots. This is a bed of carrots coming up. Still harvesting some cucumbers. This is about done. We'll probably harvest it one or two more times, and we'll pull that. And we're gonna leave the parsley, but that half of that row, the cucumbers in this bed, will be planted to carrots in about a week or two. This was lettuce that we just got done harvesting, and now we're under here harvesting down towards the bottom, and we're working our way up. So these our salad greens that will be ready in about a week to harvest. And we got our okra, hot peppers, okra, and eggplant doing amazing. Our hedgerow looking beautiful. We got calendula, marigolds, that's oregano flowering, some new raspberry starts. So, yeah. So in this bed here, we got our pumpkins, which are really vining out, but they have nice green pumpkins on there. You see a bee going. They're starting to get a tint of yellowing, which just means they're getting later in their growth cycle. They're really focusing on sizing up their pumpkins. So they put a lot of energy and nutrients towards the pumpkins, which kind of robs from the leaves. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of yellowing. Those are the older leaves too. The younger ones, they're out close to the tip, are nice and green. So if you see some yellowing on your leaves, don't worry, don't freak out, especially if it's towards the center of the plant where the roots are going into the ground. Those are the oldest leaves, and those will yellow the quickest. And this is our hedgerow over there. There's our carrots that we're harvesting right now. This is the next planting of carrots. Some cabbage here. There's just a small variety, so it's not a huge head, but people like a smaller head, so we've been trying to focus more on smaller heads of cabbage. Our next planting of carrots after that one. Got our potatoes coming up nicely. This is where our peas were. So we have a row of potatoes. 3 different varieties here that we did a later planting of, just to have mainly for fresh seed for next year. So the stuff we harvested earlier in the season won't store very well late in the season. It'll store into December and the winter fine, but once we get into the spring, it'll sprout very, very quick. But the stuff we harvest later in the season will store into the spring really nice. So we got our tomatoes that we've been harvesting. Black raspberries that are pruned now, so I cut out all the canes that produced this year, and I trimmed back the canes that had just come up this year. They either look like that or they're further up, but I trim them down to manage them. If we let them go, they'll keep growing and grow down to the ground and reroot, which is fine, but that's all kind of wasted energy. So I prune them here, and then these side shoots will grow out. They're already starting to push. They'll grow out, and all these side shoots will be bearing canes as well. So if you just if you let them grow and prune them back in late fall, you'll just have a single cane that will produce berries. Where here, I have the main stem, and then they'll have side shoots that'll also produce berries. Now your berries might be a little bit smaller overall, but your total yield will be greater. So we have beans coming up, and these were all potatoes not too long ago. So we have cucumbers that aren't flowering yet, so they're staying covered, but the zucchini, there's flowers. I don't know if you can see some yellow, but these are starting to flower, so I just uncovered them to let the bees at them. Got another planting of beans. We got carrots here. See the carrots coming up. And this is planted of carrots as well, and it's just peeking through. I don't know if you can really see it well in here. And then we have, in about a week, or maybe not even that, we have our last, pretty much our last planting of brassicas that's going to go in here. So yeah, I guess we can see this hoop house. We just have our yellow tomatoes here, mainly our peppers, and also our celery that we've been harvesting. You see, I just harvested this section. See how these are quite thinner, so I just harvested a couple of the outer ones at a time. And these haven't been harvested. But you can see here, that row of potatoes should be all about like that. But there's a section here that some of them are just starting to poke out. They're really taking their time. But there's a variety of peppers that start there and go down to about where they start getting better. It ends and goes to a different variety. So I'm guessing that pepper, the plants are really large, the peppers are large. I'm guessing that's a pretty aggressive pepper as far as its root system and competing with plants around it, but that's okay. Not everything works out. Our asparagus bed, that didn't do so well this year because of our mistake. Got our onions, so here's all of our onions that are curing. About 2/3. We have our red onions somewhere else. And I came up here to show you our seedlings. So those 3 rows of that are going to be brassicas are going to be these 3 here. This is sprouting broccoli that I'm going to try. Then we got green onions. These are all lettuces. You see how some of them are spotty. So we buy a pelleted seed for lettuce, but we found that the pelleted seed does not keep very well. So we actually have to buy it twice a year because the germination viability of that seed goes down. Especially as we get into the summer, it just doesn't sprout very well. So this is seed that was not pelleted, just raw seed, and this is pelleted. I'm not quite sure about what varieties those are, but I think, yeah, those are pelleted. And they come up, a lot of them may come up, but they're just they don't all come at one time. They're very sporadic, which is not fun to work with. So here we bought new seed, just came about a week ago. See how a lot of these are germinating a lot better. But that was, let's see, well, it is. They're coming up, they're just a little bit behind. But. And another thing too is the heat that can cause issues. So not only the seed viability going down, the germination rate going down, but you have the excess heat this time of year, where I don't germinate them in that spot. I'll put them in the shed, in the shade, or on this rack or table if it's not too hot. But I put them in the shed if it's really hot, just to keep the sun off of them. And that helps a lot. But that's our July update. Hope you enjoy it. Things are definitely busy and changing with each passing day, and it's kind of a rush to continue planting beds and also thinking about fall, winter. Like the carrots, you need to pretty much get your carrots planted now or in the next week or 2. So it's making sure I'm keeping up with that so we have plenty of carrots in the wintertime. So yeah, until next time, eat well, live well.